It is sometimes said that the cover-up is worse than the crime, but not in this case. This crime was pretty heinous, and today we're going to be talking about the Clay Higgins report on the Trump assassination. He went to the site. Let's talk about what he found, because it is explosive. Hello everyone, Dr. Chris Martinson here. Listen, I promised myself I was going to take a day off. I can't help it. This is just really astonishing what we're going to be talking about today. This is a really explosive report by Clay Higgins, Representative Clay Higgins. It's really pointing very clearly that there's some kind of FBI malfeasance going on at this point in time, and I wish I didn't have to report on this. I wish it wasn't this way, but here we are. This is absolutely a must-read report. We see here is from Clay Higgins. It just came out, dated 12th of August. We just got it yesterday, and it says, note this report is preliminary, not conclusive. Look at all the committees that Clay Higgins serves on: Committee on Homeland Security, Chairman, Border Security and Enforcement, Transportation and Maritime Security, Committee on Oversight and Accountability, Government Operations and Federal Workforce, etc. So, by the way, there he is down below, and Wikipedia hates this man, which is a good sign. Wikipedia, of course, canceled my account, took my page down because I dared to say that maybe COVID was going to be a thing before it was officially okay to say that. That was February 5th, 2020. My page had been up for 12 years, and it got taken down because I was saying uncomfortable things that Wiki thought I shouldn't be saying. So Wiki is just a tool of the deep state, and so that means that because in the transitive rule, Wiki hates Clay Higgins, therefore, he must also be aligned against the deep state, which means he's on our side. So that's a good thing. Okay, I like Clay Higgins' method. It's one we support. Representative Higgins here writing, he said, after appropriate arrangement through the Congressional Office of Task Force, Chairman Mike Kelly, whose district encompasses Butler County, Pennsylvania, wherein the assassination attempt occurred on July 13th, 2024, hereafter referred to as J13, I traveled to Butler County on Sunday, August 4th, leaving the area on Tuesday, August 6th. So he's there 3 days. During my time on the ground in Pennsylvania, I was able to focus about 20 hours on my initial investigative endeavor. As always, my investigation was focused on hard evidence and facts, specific observations guided by instinct and experience. This is a method we support, recognize, and understand. He said, quote, my overall mission was to personally observe and investigate the available crime scene site, along with consideration of both anticipated and unanticipated interactions with witnesses, the crime scene landscape, hard evidence, corroborative evidence, and circumstantial evidence. My initial investigative intent was to carefully observe and listen, to document and consider the totality of circumstance surrounding the attempted assassination of President Trump. Be calm, move slowly to the center, and just let the crime scene talk to you. This was advice to me as a young patrol cop from a renowned investigator many years ago. So that's what he did. He traveled to Butler and, quote, let the crime scene talk to me. Okay, so this is a preliminary report, but oh my goodness, what he's already found is astonishing. Many questions remain, and new ones have been raised, but some have been answered. So I like how he went about this a lot. He said here he would like to clarify again, this report is intended to promote discussion amongst the task force members and encourage, well-disciplined further investigation, end quote. This is what we're doing at Peak Prosperity. If you come by our citizens investigation, we've got some extraordinary people there, lots of experience working on it and doing it in the same way. We're here to promote discussion. We don't know what the truth is, but through a process of elimination and wrestling and fact-fitting and finding, we get closer and closer to the truth. So we've made some really significant progress, and so has Representative Higgins here. He said, quote, many considerations were cleared up, like clutter, which allows an investigator to focus on central questions that remain, bigger considerations. Okay, he's working on a much more thorough report, and he says in the next report, I will submit for Chairman Kelly's review. That one will be much more comprehensive. It's going to take a few more weeks to develop. Totally understand the process, okay? He goes there. He's expecting to look for certain things, but also anything unanticipated that comes up, you just flow with that because that's how a good investigation goes. You see something that's a little out of sort and you follow it, and then that often will give you a new avenue or even help you break the case. Okay. So he had observations of note, and this one kind of stands out. We should talk about this. First, he said, of many observations of note, I'm just going to go through a few. Again, read the whole report. I had the link at the beginning. We'll put it in the show notes. Well worth your time. He said here, quote, according to my investigation, the United States Secret Service had never, prior to J13, assigned a counter-sniper team to a former president of the United States, including Trump. So the USSS had never, prior to J13, assigned a counter-sniper team to POTUS. So he says, I will not be 100% certain of this assertion without further investigation into documented records, but the USSS counter-sniper team stated clearly to ESU command that they had never been deployed to a former POTUS event, nor had they heard of a prior deployment by other USSS counter-sniper teams. So that's kind of interesting. Because I remember when I was talking with, and I did the live cast with Gary of Paramount Tactical, he told me during that interview, our live event, that it was the holster gal, that we saw that she came to the site early. She was in the pre-planning thing. She was there with the site special agent in charge, Tim Burke, and that she was the one who advocated strongly for these snipers at this event. And so that's just kind of an interesting moment there to notice that happened. All right. Now, Secret Service as well had many, many failures, which we've been observing and cataloging along the way. And so we have to put kind of the FBI and the Secret Service in the same pot here, right? There are two governmental agencies. And if this was a let it happen on purpose or made it happen, if either of those theories or hypotheses is true, then where you kind of have to hold everybody suspect who is in that category. And so one of them has to be, I think, of course, we should be asking very hard questions about Secret Service. Not all of them, but the people who are making these decisions. Commenter, again, at Peak Prosperity, making just really wonderful comments just over and over again. Does a great job. Really admiring what Commenter has brought to the table so far. So he said, by now we know many facts that point otherwise, right? Because the Secret Service is trying to paint local police as headless. It was uncoordinated. We had system failures, maybe protocol deviations. They're trying to sort of pretend like it's this magic system, not people with names. They're trying to steer us away from individuals with individual responsibility and decision-making as the people who made the mistakes. Or maybe they weren't mistakes if it was on purpose. So they're trying to steer us away and have us point at something nebulous, right? Which is like, it was the system, right? At any rate, by now, he said, we know many facts point otherwise, specifically the total contrast between local law enforcement and Social Security chiefs. We know that local law enforcement was diligent in communicating about the suspect with the rangefinder, that the suspect was lurking about, the suspect was on the roof, the suspect was on the roof with a rifle, Greg Nickel being the exception here, we think. But anyway, local law enforcement was doing the best they could, and that's really reflected strongly in the Clay Higgins report as well. But the Secret Service chiefs, however, they handicapped everything before, during, and probably after here, right? So they handicapped both local and the Secret Service sniper teams by the definition of the posts where they put them, right? Oh, you're in this corner room inside this building over here. We'll put you two guys over here, sniper teams over here on these roofs where you're stepping all over each other's duty footprints, and part of you can't even see the whole roof structure, right? They rejected the drone, right? They rejected local radio. We'll see more about that in a second. They rejected local embed in the Secret Service command. They didn't want any locals in there with them. They rejected the morning meeting that they could have had with local law enforcement, and only slowly and dilutedly passing on info about crooks to the Secret Service snipers kind of late. And let's not forget this, too, the completely bizarre security perimeter. Let me get my little pointy tool out here for us so we can all follow along. This is from a much higher angle. This is a sort of a blow up in here, but look at this. This is a 9-iron. This is Trump's stage. This is a 9-iron away is this AGR complex, 9-iron in golf, right? Easy, 9-iron. And here's where they drew the security perimeter all the way, like here's Trump's stage, and they have a security perimeter way out here, right? Which kind of makes sense, but they didn't have that security perimeter all around here. And looking in even closer, you can see that security perimeter was literally here. You could have thrown a rock You could have thrown a rock from here to there, right? It wasn't even in their security perimeter. I don't even know who was responsible for this zone, no man's land. I don't know. Because there's another fence here, and we had local law enforcement out here. But yeah, the whole thing is just weird, right? As some called it, that was the Pac-Man security bubble. Somehow, so who set that up? They have a name. Somebody made a decision. This is the important part here. It wasn't a Secret Service failure. It was a failure of somebody with a name. Or maybe it wasn't a failure because they intended it to be this way, and that's what needs to be resolved. And of course, that's what a good investigation would resolve. Listen, this is really awkward. I hate to do this, but I have to rule out that you intentionally, Secret Service person, that you intentionally created a security lapse for somebody to exploit. I just have to rule it out. We have to go down that path so that we can at least check that off the list, right? So this looks intentional to me. It's the only way I can interpret it right now. And here, Clay Higgins is writing that in his report that we're reviewing today, Butler County, quote, runs the radio communications tower out of their 911 call center. That is pretty much the way radio communications work across America in every county in every state. If the radios are interoperable, a visiting law enforcement agency is assigned a frequency, a channel for their operation while in that county. If the radios are not interoperable with the county communications tower, then the visiting agency is assigned or offered actual radios. Here you go. That to use while they are running their operation in the county. Makes total sense. The United States Secret Service did not retrieve the radios that had been set aside for them by Butler County Tactical Command. The radio comms were properly and perfectly arranged during the extensive pre-mission planning. On J-12, the day before J-13, the Butler County ESU commander personally reminded the United States Secret Service counter-sniper teams to pick up their assigned radios at the ESU command post, RV, which was positioned according to planning at the Butler Fairgrounds the following morning, sometime before 11 o'clock. It didn't happen. Join me on camera 3 for a second. I don't know how are we? They had radios and they just didn't go pick them up. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't know. All right. Well, anyway, if you can believe that, right? Okay. Carrying on. Susan Crabtree here writing, you can see the link to her Twitter thing down there. I think this came out yesterday, said, most important news from Secret Service Director Rose, 1 p.m. address this afternoon to every Secret Service employee. They said, apparently they did not have a unified command center with local law enforcement. That's what we're going with here. Therefore, there was no interoperability between Secret Service and local law enforcement when communications came in. That's it. They said, oh, you know what? We were completely siloed. That's the problem here. We were just completely siloed. Somebody should have thought of this. We'd never thought of it before. We'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Are we done? Stop looking, because I told you we have interoperability communication silo problems. We need unified command centers. Like, no, nobody. Somebody with a name refused to go get those radios. Somebody with a name made the decision to not actually have that interoperability. You had radios. Go pick them up, right? This is not like, I don't want to tell you your jobs, everyone there at Secret Service, but this is pretty easy. If you're going to have people on your team, you're going to have to talk to those people on your team. Just how it is. Not that hard, right? Everybody out here in the cheap seats is like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But also trying to say, the problem here, according to Roe, is just completely siloed from local law enforcement. Well, you know what? You're also completely siloed within Secret Service too, apparently, we're supposed to believe, because here we can see from body-worn camera BWC2 from Officer 122104, we can see that South sniper team, Hercules 1, they turn around, right? They turn away from their coverage zone, and they swing north at 6:10 in 11 seconds. At the latest, we're missing the first 4 or 5 seconds before this because the guy wearing the body cam was facing this way, but then he swivels over, and I can see that they're already swiveling around. Now, here's a question. Why is Trump left on the stage until the shooting starts 1 minute and 23 seconds later? There's an urgent threat enough that these guys down here are going to go from where they're facing south to swiveling all the way around and facing the other way, right? So that means that they had an urgent enough threat that's going to cause them to take their guns, swivel them all the way around, remount them, glass down, get sighted in. A full minute and 23 seconds. You know how many seconds it takes to get Trump off the stage? About 5. So they had this urgent enough threat within Secret Service. So the next question has got to be, well, how did you guys get alarmed enough to swivel around and mount your guns to the north, right? And this is the team, by the way, that took the final kill shot, I believe. I believe it's actually that, if I'm right, it's that gentleman right there with the glasses, the binos, in the floppy hat right there. Okay, so I guess siloed from each other too. Now, how about this, though? Secret Service radio comms not recorded that day, if you can believe that. Senator Ron Johnson asking here in testimony, does the Secret Service use encrypted communications at events? Director Rowe, on our radio nets, we do, sir. Senator Johnson, are those saved? The radio traffic from Butler says, Director Rowe, we did not have recordings. All right, I don't know what to make about that. Again, let me make my offer. I will personally pay for the 1 terabyte SD card that they could record probably 4 years of radio comms on. If that's the problem, if it's the $50 hang up, I got you covered, Secret Service. Just give me a call. I'll get you the 1 terabyte SD card that you can use to record all of your comms going forward, which you would probably want to have for all sorts of reasons, unless you didn't want to have those comms for some other reason. I understand that to a point. Now, this is a Friday recording, so I have a very big report that I've just prepared for my subscribers back at Peak Prosperity. Something broke really bad during COVID. I think I know what it was. We got to talk about it because this is the thing that broke that. Something happened. Some people lost their ability to make cognitive connections. Like watching this confusion that we're seeing here with Director Rowe and the FBI and all these people. It's like they've lost their basic ability to cognate, right? To think. Like something has happened, and if you still have your wits about you, you know how frustrating this is, and if not alarming, right? Because you've probably had encounters now where things like people can't seem to make change anymore at the checkout counter, where doctors can't have reasonable conversations with you anymore that follow a logical chain of 1 + 1 + 1 means 3. If you're finding it frustrating, if you've had maybe broken family relationships, right? Like topics are off limits now. I mean, off limits, where they used to sort of be uncomfortable. Now they are, if you broach them, ruptures happen. So I think I know what broke, and we have to talk about that. It's very serious. There is a way out of that darkness, but it's going to require our best efforts. So if that is of interest to you, come on by Peak Prosperity, and that's what we're going to be doing. Now, I like in Clay Higgins' report here too, Representative Higgins, where he's dispensing with certain fabrications. Like this one, he said, there are videos circulating on the internet that appear to show a muzzle flash from inside the AGR building from the window below Crook's firing position on the roof of the AGR building. I carefully examined this window inside and out, and I interviewed the AGR employee who has worked in that small office area for many years. That window does not open and has never opened. The muzzle flash from inside that window was either a digital fabrication or an iPhone light or iPhone camera flash reflected from the glass of the window. And Representative Higgins, I would give you one more possibility. I actually think it was these headlights that were pointed right in that direction. So this is by that big case harvester that's sitting there, the red one, and then we've got that car there, and it's police car, and its headlights are both on, and they're pointed right at AGR 6 on that south side. So I think this is, and it's right at the time of that reflection. So I think you could include that as a possibility as well. But I love dispensing with the fabrications because there's a lot of junk going on around there that there's a flash and it's a gunshot. It's not. There's nothing to support that. So I think we can dispense with that now. We'll put that in the red category for now. Now, as well, he wrote here, Representative Higgins said the 9th shot fired on J13 was from a Butler SWAT operator from the ground about 100 yards away from the AGR building. Shot 9, this is new for me, new information, hit Crook's rifle stock and fragged his face, neck, right shoulder area from the stock breaking up. The SWAT operator who took this shot was a total bad A, and when he had sighted the shooter Crooks as mostly obscured by foliage, moving target on the AGR rooftop, he immediately left his assigned post, ran toward the threat, running to a clear shot position directly into the line of fire while Crooks was firing 8 rounds on his own. This ESU SWAT operator took a very hard shot. One shot. He stopped Crooks immediately. And importantly, I believe the shot damaged the buffer tube on Crooks' AR. I won't be certain of this until I can examine his rifle, but I'm 99% sure, based upon reliable eyewitness ESU TAC officers who observed Crooks' rifle before the FBI harvested it as evidence. This means that if his AR buffer tube was damaged, Crooks' rifle wouldn't fire after his 8th shot. I pointed this out as well, that whoever shot that shot 9 is the hero of the day. Stopped the shooting, prevented any more from going on, absolutely did what they were supposed to do, and had to do it in an astonishingly quick amount of time from that first shot going off, 1, 2, 3, to those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which are the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then that 9th one, that total string was only 5.89 seconds from beginning to the 9th shot. That means that this operator had to assess, sight on, probably freehand, and take a 100-yard shot that stopped the threat. Total, like this is the person that everybody should be interviewing and talking to, because this is the person who stopped the threat. This, not Secret Service, this person. All right. Now we're going to get down to the heart of today's piece, which is Clay Higgins is pointing out he has 4 really inexcusable FBI moments. And inexcusable moment number 1 was the FBI, for reasons that are inexplicable and inexcusable, released all first responders that evening. Much to everyone's surprise, I interviewed several EMS cops, etc. Not just that evening. These people were released by 7:35. Hey, they're in their civvies, civilian clothes. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you. And we know at 7:50 we've got FBI agents walking around. So they were there. They showed up. And they're like, yeah, I guess you can all just go home, including you. Good night, Greg. There's Greg leaving at 7:59. So about 8 o'clock, just before 8 o'clock, he is out the door and gone, as we've already recorded. Very weird. You would think something this important, you'd really want to make sure you got full statements from everybody while it was fresh. I don't care if you have to stay there till 2 in the morning. I do not understand. By 7:51, the shots happened at 6:11. By 7:35, we're like, bye. Wasn't like they released everybody that evening. They released them in less than 2 hours, hour and a half. You can see these people after this. They all walk off to their cars. Adios. Bizarre. Okay. FBI inexcusable moment number 2. The FBI cleaned up biological evidence from the crime scene, which is unheard of. Cops don't do that. Ever. We noted this at the time, so you can see this is July 16th, right? The whole thing happened July 13th, so I don't know exactly when this photo was taken, but it's no later than July 16th. So literally cleaning up the crime scene no later than day 3, just hosing it down, just cleaning it up, which is a bizarre thing because, all of these services exist. Here's just some local to my area: Aftermath Services LLC, National Crime Scene Cleanup, Biohazard Pro. These are commercial cleaning services that are there to help after some sort of a crime has occurred. Like there's biological materials, right? There's blood and brain and things, tissue, whatever. There's services that do this. This isn't one of them. Guaranteed. Your house has a crime scene. Call the FBI up. Say, hey, can you clean my carpet up here in the hallway? No? Thought you did that, right? Be a mystery. So bizarre. They cleaned it up. Inexcusable moment number 3, and that's just a stock photo of somebody getting cremated, not the photo of Crooks, just to be clear about this. He said, Representative Higgins said, quote, my effort to examine Crooks's body on Monday, August 5th, caused quite a stir and revealed a disturbing fact. The FBI released the body for cremation 10 days after J13 on J23. Crooks was gone. Nobody knew this until Monday, August 5th, including the county coroner, law enforcement, sheriff, etc. How does the county coroner not know that? They are the person who should be releasing that body. Yes, Butler County coroner technically had legal authority over the body, but I spoke with the coroner, and he wouldn't he would have never released Crooks's body to the family for cremation or burial without specific permission from the FBI. Now, that's not clear to me. Is the county coroner saying he had specific permission from the FBI, or did somebody else release it that wasn't the county coroner, in which case that's a violation has happened? I'm not clear what this means yet, but I am clear that the body went off for cremation, and that is a huge problem, obviously. And then, let me see if so why is that a huge problem? Because, well, think of the things we don't know anymore, right? Once the body goes off for cremation, we don't know, we can't run any additional tox or drug panels just in case, we forgot to test for something, like was this kid on something and be given something? Is there some way we can account for him being extra calm and able to get harassed by police and still somehow settle down and take all those shots? So was he full of benzos or some other narcotics of some kind that could help, beta blockers, something to help keep the whole system down? And if so, where do you get them, etc.? And as well, we might want to know what wounds did he actually have, right? And etc. There's a lot you can tell from the body, and that's gone. Inexcusable moment number 4 by the FBI here is that the FBI released the crime scene after just 3 days, much to everyone's surprise. Quote, I interviewed several first responders who expressed everything from surprise to dismay, that would have been me, to suspicion, also me, regarding the fact that the FBI released the crime scene so early after J13. It should be noted that the FBI was fully aware of the fact that Congress would be investigating J13. The FBI does not exist in a vacuum. They had to know that releasing the J13 crime scene would injure the immediate observations of any following investigation. This is absolutely true. I remember seeing, it was just basically a week later, when we saw Eli Crooks, Representative Crooks is there, and he's on the roof, and he's talking about the actual room that the snipers should have been in for the ESU and that Overwatch building, but he scanned over, and the whole fairgrounds is scrubbed clean, like they broke down the stadium, the stands, and the stage. And now we don't have the capability of finding out where that bullet clanged off the railing, putting our eye right on that railing, having somebody who's 6'3" standing there on the stage, and then drawing a line and saying, oh, I bet you that's where that shot came from, because that sort of thing would be important. Also, where did all the rest of the rounds actually hit? Do we know? Well, we know one hit a hydraulic line. We know some that hit Corey Comparator and the other victims in the railing in Trump's ear. We have a few, but where are the rest? Where'd they go? What does that tell us? What information can we gather from that? Don't know. It all got taken down. And remember this, that on July 20th, right? This is a week later, the FBI tried to kick out Senator Josh Hawley, a U.S. senator, goes to the site. It's already been broken down. And even with that, the FBI's like, you get out of here. You get, kicking him out, right? So the FBI is acting super sus, super cagey about this whole thing, breaking everything down, washing it down, trying to keep anybody else at bay. Dude, this is a U.S. senator. Okay. And then we have some questionable moments. So this is still in the questionable category, but maybe this will be inexcusable moment number 5 if it turns out to be that the FBI failed to harvest and preserve evidence. Quote from Higgins' report again. He says, on J13, one of Crook's shots hit a pressurized hydraulic line on a stage piece of heavy equipment. My effort to examine the hydraulic line evidence revealed that the tractor belonged to a rental company. It is unknown if that hydraulic line was harvested properly as evidenced by the FBI, but it certainly should have been. It remains a question for further investigation. I need to examine that hydraulic line because confirmation of the caliber of the rifle projectile that hit that line would be helpful to our investigation. That's how the examination of evidence works. We have to look at everything. If they didn't harvest it, it wasn't preserved, and it's now lost, that's inexcusable, right? For now, it's questionable because we don't know if the FBI did harvest that particular piece of struck hydraulic line. We don't know. But now we have such a pattern of issues here that we have a fact pattern that's very, very deeply troubling when you put it into one spot. So let's put it all into one spot for a second. Secret Service. First, they had counter snipers there on Trump at this event for the first time ever. That's kind of weird, really. Think of the odds. First time ever, and you just happen to need the counter sniper to take out the patsy. I mean, the perp, right? Second, they deployed them stupidly. They had them, but they tucked some behind trees where they couldn't see where the exact spot where this Patsy perp was shooting from. So who deploys them that stupidly? Nobody. Yeah. My son's a very smart kid, but he's never been a Secret Service agent. And I had him look at the overall site map, and I said, where would you place your snipers? He plays Call of Duty, right? So he's like, oh, yeah, here and here. And he put them right on the roof of that 2-story building. He's like, obviously, look at all, they get to see everything here, right? And that's what you would do. So they deployed them in, like, it's implausible that they would have deployed them thusly. They instructed local law enforcement to inside Building 6 positions in the southwest corner, according to them. They said, yeah, they told us, yeah, go into this room, way over here, over there. And don't just crank the windows open, just be inside. It was weird, really weird. They didn't attend meetings. There was no day of briefing with the locals. They didn't use locally provided radios, just too tricky. Didn't want those. Declined, actually refused a drone. Didn't bring one. And then when somebody said, we got one, they're like, no, don't want that. Didn't even communicate with themselves, apparently, because the people on the stage protection detail weren't getting the same information, apparently, that the snipers on the roof were, because they acted totally differently. And they didn't interview or debrief any local law enforcement, according to Ronald Rowe, as late as August 9th. I don't know if they've done it since then, but put that together and you're like, there's incompetence, but this is implausible incompetence. It's implausible, unless everybody's got some sort of cognitive decline problem and we just can't even reason our way out of a wet paper bag anymore, in which case none of these people should be operating heavy machinery or being around weapons. And the FBI, for their part, let everybody go home less than an hour and a half after the shooting. Oh, just we'll talk to you later. Getting late. Right? They cleansed the crime scene very uncharacteristically and suspiciously. Released the entire crime scene by day 3, but we're still trying to keep Senator Hawley out. Released Crooks's body for cremation without notifying anybody, apparently, or allowing a second independent investigation of that, and have provided no press releases since July 14th. It's a kind of a weird fact pattern when you put it all that way. And here's a final note from Representative Clay Higgins, writing here, quote, the coroner's report and autopsy report are both late. As of Monday, August 5th, they were a week late. The problem with me not being able to examine the actual body is that I won't know 100% if the coroner's report and the autopsy report are accurate. We will actually never know. Yes, we'll get the pictures and reports, etc., but I will not ever be able to say with certainty that those reports and pictures are accurate according to my own examination of the body. Again, similar to releasing the crime scene and scrubbing crime scene biological evidence, this action by the FBI can only be described by any reasonable man or woman as an obstruction to any following investigative effort. Obstruction. Obstructive. Yes. Any reasonable, yes, anybody who's even slightly reasonable will go, yeah, those are some obstructive things you did there. Please note, Mr. Chairman, he continues on here, writing that on J23, the day that Crooks was cremated, both the Homeland Security Committee and the Oversight Committee had begun House Committee jurisdictional investigation into J13, and Speaker Johnson had already stated that he was forming an official congressional investigative body. Why then, and by what measure, would the FBI release his body to the family for cremation? This pattern of investigative scorched earth by the FBI is quite troubling. It is. And to understand that, we're going to have to talk about this thing that broke during COVID. Look, folks, this is insane. I mean, it's just clearly obvious that there's something very, very wrong with this story. And either we get to the bottom of it or we don't. If we don't get to the bottom of it, think of all the other things that we're going to have to just put up with as time goes on, right? We're going to have to deal with more and more falsified everything. And it's just, we don't live in that country that I grew up in, right? And I feel terrible for kids growing up today. It was an innocent time when I was growing up, right? Sure, you could get sent to prison for smoking a joint, but, on balance, right? There was a functioning system that you could believe in. Nobody can believe in this stuff. And that's corrosive. We know that justice is not operating at this point in time. We know that there's a deep state fixing machine that pretends to put this patina of legitimacy on these investigations, but it's all fraudulent, and we know that. We can see it. And it's either fraudulent because we're stocked to the gills with completely inept people who've never, ever, ever even thought about how to run an investigation ever, or they're doing it on purpose. I cannot, you're going to have to work very hard to convince me that the things we're seeing are due to gross incompetence. They stack up right now as malfeasance. That means an official act of harm that's being created by somebody in an official capacity. So malfeasance. It's intentional. It's not accidental, right? Just like COVID, there was a lot that happened there that we go, oh, wow, how did they just got everything wrong. No, you don't just get everything wrong. Randomly, you're going to get some of them right. Let's let people walk around outside because it seems to not spread outside and get sunlight and attend, gatherings with each other and whatever. No, everything they did, same people, by the way, in essence, these administrative state folks, everything they did during COVID was harmful. Nothing they did was helpful. And there are people like us who know that. Now, there's other people who don't know that, right? And they're caught up in that deeper and deeper. Think how hard those poor people have to work who caught up still in the COVID narrative and trying to torture that was somehow right or appropriate or useful. And all the data is stacked against them. That creates this cognitive dissonance. And you persist in that state long enough and your brain breaks. And that's why we have to talk about this, because something broke. And I think I know what it was. We're going to talk about that. But in the meantime, please share this, spread this around, subscribe, like, do all the usual things to help the algorithm understand that we, the people, really care about this malfeasance. We're sick and tired of it, and we need it to stop. And we have to provide backing to all of the people who are in power, the Senator Johnsons and Higgins and all the other people out there, Chuck Grassley, who do care. And let them know we care as well, because this is unacceptable. It's got to stop. And it's time to get our country back and get on firm footing so that our kids and grandkids are going to have an actual world to inherit and grow up in that they can believe in. That's what's at stake. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.